So I could clean my desk more, but we're just gonna make more mess as we go, so there's no point. This is the concept sketch that we're working with. When I design for my clients and they want beading to be part of the gown process, because I designed 3 gowns for their design packages, I tell them that the beading isn't going to be resolved, that it's just going to be these scribbles, more or less, as a placeholder, just to show where for placement, more or less. And then depending on the design that they choose, that's when we go in and we start to develop and resolve the beading design. So for Charlotte, whom I affectionately call Chuck because of pushing daisies, we knew where we wanted to have our beading design. We changed the sleeve to be sheer and got rid of this because she moved the date of her wedding. It was originally supposed to be in autumn, and she is now having it in the summer. So we needed to summer up the dress. And our original inspiration for the gown was to have really deep gem tones, but we realized that that would maybe be a little bit too heavy for a July-August wedding. So we lightened up the colors and made it a little bit more summery. And so you'll see where we ended up. It ended up having a bit of a mermaidy kind of a fairy tale vibe. And I'm going to show you some of the inspiration images that we started with. But she didn't want it to have quite as much texture. She didn't want it to be coming out of the garment as much, but she still did want there to be some 3D aspects and texture. And the way that I design my beading is a pretty organic process. So originally, when we started, I pulled out a selection of beads and embroidery thread and stuff in a range of colors, and she yay or nayed a bunch and said yes to a bunch of others. Because we were going for this bit of a garden vibe, I had pulled some lilacs and some purples and some greens, and she just kiboshed those ones. She was like, yuck, no purple, no green, which was totally cool with me. That I have no problem with that. We ended up with some champagnes and some pinks, some silvers and some blues. And once we had those aspects, I went on the gown, which is together, and I traced off the area where the beading would go and made a pattern for it. And then it was originally drawn onto the frame with invisible ink, disappearing ink. So that's why I stitch it down over top, so that when the ink disappears, I can still see the borders that I'm supposed to stay within. So I don't have a clear plan for this. Everyone's creative process is going to be a little bit different. When I did the front pieces, I did the same thing. I went in and traced off the area that the beading would be within. And then I just kind of drew all these squiggles in, sort of, just to give me a rough plan. I don't like things to be very symmetrical. This bothers me because Mondrian is actually one of my least favorite artists. Those black and red and yellow boxes just drive me bananas. But the point of his art and those stupid boxes was that he was trying to find the perfect asymmetry. He was trying to find something that was perfectly unbalanced. That part I can relate to, because I really strive for that in my own work. I don't want things to be symmetrical. I'm always trying to find a perfect balance of asymmetry. So this was my guide, just a kind of a rough guide for placement of the main elements. And then there was going to be the parts that get filled in. And you can see here, this was the piece. This is the opposite side of the piece but I just kind of roughed in where my main elements would go. And I wanted to make sure that not just in terms of the layout, but in the colors as well, that nothing was being repeated. So we've got these little guys and these little guys, but everything else I wanted to, it wasn't going to be many of these and a bunch of these and a bunch of these. I wanted to make sure that I was using these elements but combining them in different ways so that we were going for that perfect balance of asymmetry and variety. And I think it ended up with like a bit of a fairy tale vibe that I'm quite pleased with. I'll show you them all together when I'm done, but I'm going to do the 2 back pieces now and time lapse. And you can see I don't really have a plan for these. I'm going to go in and kind of rough out a layout and then just kind of wing it like scat jazz, which is why I didn't clean the desk, because all this stuff is going to get used. So here we go. Okay, so I've blocked in the major bits, the big parts. I'm still gonna try to fit something there. I think it's not gonna be one of these flowers though, because I don't want to. These parts were more important to me, but something will go there. But in any case, I've got them blocked out now, more or less. So the next step is to fill all of these in with different things. And then once I have these filled in, I'll start filling in these gaps. And I'll start big, like maybe with some of the bigger sequin flowers, and then I'll get small, and then all the little tiny gaps in between get filled in with the tiny flowers. So that's the next part. Okay, so here we go. I've got my main components filled in, except for this guy, because my brain is struggling to figure out what I want to fill this in with. And when I went and I took an ice cream break and came back and still couldn't make my decision, I decided to leave it for now and just move on to the other stuff and figure this out later. So the next part is to go in and fill in some of the bigger areas with some smaller flowers. So I'm gonna do some pink sequin flowers, maybe there and there. And then I'm gonna do some pearl flowers. I have less room on this side. I'll do 2 there. And then once I've got those filled in, I'm gonna go around and put in a few smaller flowers, like the little white plastic guys. Those will go in. And then fill in the rest of it with the coral and the small sequin flowers. So that's where I'm at for now. And I'll do a bit of time lapse of that for you. It could be my beginning. All through time. All through time. Describe